everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel.
It's all gonna be good. Like you know you should. Yeah. Till you've understood, until you feel it like it's up again. Feel the sunlight on your skin. Keep your heart beating. Go on, breathe in.
Hello again everyone, it's me, Martha, and for today's video, I will be discussing to you the topic number 13, which is the management theory by Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker and his famous contribution, Management by Objective. Peter Drucker is the father of modern management. Management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right things. It implies that leaders are the ones who decide what to do, while managers decide how to do things. So before I will discuss to you the management theories, let's have first the brief introduction of who is Peter Drucker and why he is considered as the father of modern management. Peter Ferdinand Drucker, November 19, 1909 to November 11, 2005, was an Austrian-born American management consultant, educator, and author, whose writings contributed to the philosophical and practical foundations of the modern business corporation. He was also a leader in the development of management education. He invented the concept known as management by objectives and self-control, and he has been described as the founder of modern management. His books have stood the test of time and are still considered some of the best business books to read management and leadership. He is one of the best known and most widely influential thinkers and writers on the subject of management theory and practice. In 1959, Drucker coined knowledge worker and later in his life considered knowledge worker predictability to be the next frontier of management. So there are four management theories of Peter Drucker. Number one is decentralization. Number two is the management by objectives. And number three is the SMART method. And number four is the knowledge worker. Decentralization, a common theme across much of Drucker's enormous body of work, was his firmly held belief that managers should delegate tasks in order to empower employees.
The Local Government Code of 1991 devolves and decentralizes power, resources, and responsibilities from the national government to local governments. The national government makes general policies. Local governments create specific actions to respond to local issues. They also contribute to developing national policies. Decentralization serves many purposes. For flexibility and efficiency, so that LGUs can respond quickly to unique and changing needs. For innovation, because LGUs know the local situation best and can find appropriate ways of responding to local issues. For greater commitment and ownership, because LGUs are the main stakeholders on the ground.
Management by objective is a measurement by which the performance of an employee is considered.
Counterpoint. Management by objectives. You have to reduce costs by 10% this quarter.
I'm sorry, sir, but...
I don't want excuses, I want results.
But, sir, how will I...
You figure it out. As top management, we like to be in control. How does one exercise control in a complex environment with dependencies and uncertainties? A good way seems to be to establish targets for immediate subordinates, assign responsibility, and measure the results after a defined period. This way, the larger objective is broken down into individual targets and passed down from level to level. This is management by objectives. Management by objectives is widely used because we can pinpoint clear and measurable accountability as well as evaluate performance. But you must have experienced that management by objectives is limited in its approach and can be the hidden source of many organizational issues and conflicts. Let's take a look at the situation we have here. A certain company has multiple SKUs manufactured across plants. They implemented an operational improvement program in all the plants. The result? Output increased by 25% and on-time performance touched the high 90s. However, in 1 month, and quite unexpectedly, on-time in-full performance dropped in a few plants and the overall dispatches decreased. But how did that happen? Let's step back a little. As part of the operational improvement program, the SKUs within an order were scheduled to ensure the plants were level loaded. This ensured good utilization of capacity with improved dispatches for the company as a whole. At the same time, the operations director had seen a significant increase in absolute logistics costs as against the budget. He wanted to bring it down and issued a directive to reduce the costs. Logically, this ought to improve the margins. However, this decision actually reduced dispatches and delivery performance for the company as a whole. Here's why. When the operations director gave the new instruction, the schedulers took the easiest way out and went back to placing complete orders in only one plant instead of spreading them across units. Consequently, the dispatches could not be made in time, and the savings on freight costs turned out to be a small fraction of what the company lost out on in dispatches. This occurrence is not an uncommon one. In any organization, business variables are interconnected. The impact of one variable on another is spaced out in time and location. As top management, you are in a unique position to view the inherent connections among various sections, view the ramifications that decisions of one can have on another, something that your managers are not in a position to do. As the objectives are passed down the levels, the manager's ability to exercise control and take informed decisions is reduced. Thus, he may take decisions that help him achieve his target, but have ramifications on other sections which he might be unaware of. So, it is important to specify not just what is to be achieved, but also how it is to be achieved. For any change to be implemented, the following questions need to be answered, and a buy-in from all interconnected departments needs to be sought. 1. What is the problem? 2. What is the objective outcome one wants to achieve by solving the problem? 3. What are the tactical steps required to achieve the objective? 4. Why do we claim that these tactical steps will lead to the stated objective without causing negative ramifications on any other key business outcomes? Answering these 4 questions will help us do the following. 1. Uncover the inherent interdependencies between sections. 2. Foresee the ramifications that actions of one section might have on another. 3. Devise a tactically sound solution that is foolproof and sustainable. 4. Ensure a consensus and thus a smooth implementation across stakeholders.
SMART method as the criteria to verify that those objectives are specific in their aim, measurable in order to track progress.
If you want to succeed, you need to set goals. Without them, you lack focus and direction. They also provide you with a benchmark to determine whether or not you are actually succeeding at them. We all struggle sometimes to achieve our plans, and it's not that we lack the effort, but our goals are not structured efficiently. To accomplish your objective, you need to know how to set it up properly. You can't simply say, "I wish I could make more money," and expect it to happen. A goal without a plan is just a wish. It is also important to recognize that not all objectives are created equal. So today I'll explain the SMART method of goal setting and how it will amplify your chances of actually succeeding. Let's get started. S stands for specific. We all have plenty of dreams and goals, but most of them are all generalized and vague, so we don't really know how to achieve them. Your goal must be clear and well defined. You can only get to where you want by defining precisely how you will get there. For example, let's take a look at this generalized wish. I want to be healthier, or I want to have a better body. What does all of this even mean? It's super vague and not specific enough. A better example would be, I'll replace drinking soda with water. I'll also be going to the gym 3 times a week for 45 minutes. You could be even more specific. 3 times per week could mean every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every time at 3 p.m. Make it as specific as possible so you know what exactly you're going to be focusing on. M stands for measurable. Tracking the progress of your goal is an important part of keeping you motivated. It allows you to set milestones that you can celebrate when you achieve them and reevaluate when you don't. If your goal is simply defined as lose weight, how will you know when you have been successful? You need to define exactly how much weight you want to lose. A much better goal would be, I want to lose 10 pounds. This way you have something to aim for and you can even set smaller milestones along the way. Basically, you break that big objective into other smaller objectives. So if you think that 10 pounds is too much, you should break it down into manageable pieces. First aim for 3 pounds, then another 3, all the way up to 10. It's the progress that keeps us motivated, so if you don't have a way to measure it, you will fail with your ambition. A stands for attainable. Make sure that it's possible to achieve the dreams you set for yourself. Far too many people fall into the trap of setting impossible goals. While they may push you forward for a while, you will almost certainly end up giving up on them. Instead of being impossible, your goals should be challenging, yet achievable. There's nothing wrong with shooting for the stars, as you might end up at the moon. However, unless you want to burn out, it's much more efficient to take small steps. For example, making $1 million by the end of the month is impossible if you can't even pay your bills. A much more attainable goal would be making extra $100 by the end of the month. Once you have achieved that, you can go a step further and try making extra $200. You don't want to set yourself up for failure by trying to go far beyond the bounds of possibility. It will only make you miserable. R stands for relevant. Your plans should be relevant to the direction you want your life and career to take. A common issue we face is having too many goals at the same time, or pursuing the wrong goals. Unless your plan is relevant to your overall life plan, achieving it may not accomplish anything. So if you look at my example, I wanted to learn French because I loved the way it sounded. However, I realized that learning the language would be completely useless for me. I barely know anyone that speaks French and I don't really need to use it anywhere. So I stopped learning it as it was taking too much of my time while I was getting nothing out of it. Becoming fluent in French would be nice, but it is currently not relevant to my overall life plan. So ask yourself why you want to achieve your goal before you commit to it. T stands for time-bound. This is one of the most important factors. Your plans must have a deadline. If you don't set a time limit, you have basically unlimited time to achieve your goals. When you are working on a deadline, your sense of urgency increases and you're more likely to achieve your goal. Think of your time in school. You had a whole month to write an essay, and yet it was done in the last 2 days. It's because the deadline was right around the corner, so you had no choice but to do it. So whenever you set a goal, keep a time limit in mind as it will push you to actually work on it. Now you know how to set SMART goals. But there's one last thing. Most people think that goal setting is a one-time event, like you set your goals once and you're done. However, it's actually an ongoing process. It never ends. Your plans will need evaluation and revision, so it's important to stay flexible.
Knowledge workers are workers whose value is found in their expertise, such as architects, software engineers, lawyers, and those who engage in problem solving or creative thinking.
Knowledge workers are workers whose main capital is knowledge. Examples include software engineers, physicians, physicists, architects, engineers, scientists, public accountants, lawyers, and academics, whose job is to think for a living. Knowledge work can be differentiated from other forms of work by its emphasis on non-routine problem solving that requires a combination of convergent, divergent, and creative thinking. But despite the amount of research and literature on knowledge work, there is no succinct definition of the term. Moscow and McKerker, 2007, outline various viewpoints on the matter. They first point to the most narrow and defined definition of knowledge work, such as Florida's view of it as specifically, the direct manipulation of symbols to create an original knowledge product, or to add obvious value to an existing one, which limits the definition of knowledge work to mainly creative work. They then contrast this view of knowledge work with a notably broader view which includes the handling and distribution of information, arguing that workers who play a role in the handling and distribution of information add real value to the field, despite not necessarily contributing a creative element. Thirdly, one might consider a definition of knowledge work which includes all workers involved in the chain of producing and distributing knowledge products, which allows for a very broad and inclusive categorization of knowledge workers. It should thus be acknowledged that the term knowledge worker can be quite broad in its meaning, and is not always definitive in who it refers to. Knowledge workers spend 38% of their time searching for information. They are also often displaced from their bosses, working in various departments and time zones, or from remote sites such as home offices and airport lounges. Knowledge workers are employees who have a deep background in education and experience and are considered people who think for a living. They include software developers, doctors, engineers, lawyers, inventors, teachers, financial analysts and architects. As businesses increase their dependence on information technology, the number of fields in which knowledge workers must operate has expanded dramatically. Even though they sometimes are called gold collars, because of their high salaries, as well as because of their relative independence in controlling the process of their own work, current research shows that they are also more prone to burnout, and very close normative control from organizations they work for, unlike regular workers. Managing knowledge workers can be a difficult task. Most knowledge workers prefer some level of autonomy, and do not like being overseen or managed. Those who manage knowledge workers are often knowledge workers themselves, or have been in the past. Projects must be carefully considered before assigning to a knowledge worker, as their interest and goals will affect the quality of the completed project. Knowledge workers must be treated as individuals.
The application of the management theory. So the first step in the application of the management theory is reviewing the organizational objectives. So in the MBO, or the management by objective paradigm, managers determine the mission and the strategic goals of the enterprise. And we need to know the mission and strategic goals of the organization because it provides the organization for a clear and effective guide for decision making. Second of the application of the management theory is we have setting employee objectives, centralized by appointing a project manager who can monitor and control activities of the various departments. The managers need to set employee goals or objectives to ensure the best outcome. Third is monitoring. After reviewing corporate objectives, the manager should monitor if everything is going as planned and systematically. Fourth is evaluating. Not to forget that employees need to be evaluated from time to time to maintain and sustain their performance level and improvise in dimensions which need improvisation. The fifth one is the rewards. Employee reward and recognition has been proven to be effective in the organizational values, enhance team efforts, increase customer satisfactions, and motivate certain behaviors among the members of the organization.
So that's the end of my presentation. I hope you learned something and thank you so much.